And welcome to the June 7th, 2023 meeting of the Goffstown Economic Development Council. I'll call the meeting to order and we can start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. First up, can I get a motion? Everyone have a chance to review the minutes? So could I get a motion to approve or corrections?
I have one
Sure.
tiny correction. Page 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth paragraph down. I think it was Chet that commented about Bartlett having GTV,
Yep, that was
and that wasn't me. So if we could just correct John Napoli on that to Chet Bowen. I
Okay.
think that's the only correction I have.
Okay, so that's a motion with that amendment. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Great, thank you.
Aye.
Motion by John, seconded by Dick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? No. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we do have a guest today, Cole Reel, Small Business and Community Development Director for the Manchester Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Cole.
Great, great to be here, Chet. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Would love for this tonight to serve as an introduction, and we'll see how we can help out the work of the council in the future. As the chamber, before I started working at the chamber about 2 years ago now, was not very familiar with the work of a chamber or what it does. There's very different, all shapes and sizes in the chamber industry. So a little bit about what we do in your packet. We have kind of listed out our benefits of membership. A chamber is supported by our members. Businesses pay an annual fee to be a member of the chamber. But on top of that, our mission is more about making sure that the Greater Manchester region is a prosperous and vibrant place for people and businesses. It's important for us to acknowledge that people live here as well when we're doing our work and outreach in the community. But a lot of what the Chamber does is connecting businesses with resources. Folks come to us with all sorts of inquiries and just kind of pointing them in the right direction, whether that's a new business or a business that's been here for a while. Kind of doing all sorts of different connecting to resources, whether that's our friends at the Small Business Development Center, our friends in economic development in the city or in the towns throughout our catchment region. We're the Greater Manchester Chamber, so it's Manchester and then all the towns that touch it fall into that. And then sometimes too, if a business is based in Concord but they want to have more interaction with folks in Manchester, we're able to make those connections as well. Our chamber offers that in a variety of ways. Some of that's networking events. I run small business connections every month at the chamber. We're right next to the Palace on Hanover Street. So 20 to 30 folks every time. They get lunch, and then we have a lesson with a coach who walks them through networking better and making sure when they come to their next networking event, they're able to use those skills. So we have smaller scale stuff like that. We have larger scale events with 100 to 150 people. We'll be over at the Fisher Cats on the 13th, where folks get to meet all different sorts of business professionals from the area. And then as well, they get to stay for the game after. So it's a fun time too. We get try to mix that in there. Our annual magazine is inside that packet that has a business directory in the back that includes all of our members, and then also just has some stories on what's been going on in the region throughout the past year. Highlighted this year is the art walk that's been going on in downtown Manchester. There's a lot of public art pieces, so there's a map about that and then just a little bit about the artists as well. Quarterly, we send out a newsletter as well to our membership and then other folks who are on that list as well to stay informed. And that just goes over a little bit of what the Chamber's been up to, upcoming events. This last one highlighted the taco tour, which was on May 4th. Terrific success, 20,000 people in downtown Manchester. So we do a little bit of community events like that. Sometimes that's just partnering with folks and helping them through the city permitting process. and connecting them with food truck vendors, stuff like that. So we do a lot of that work, but that magazine, there's 20,000 that are printed annually, and businesses either use that a lot of times for recruiting, or they'll just have it out in their lobby for folks to take, and it kind of gets out and about that way. But it's a good way for the businesses in it to get exposure, highlighted sections for stuff like events and event spaces and stuff like that.
We usually take 2 boxes and put them out by the door, and so far I think we've gone through 1.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. We have some folks downtown when there's a lot of people visiting for a convention at the hotel or something like that. They'll kind of know that person when they walk in the door, and then they'll hand them one, and then
Yeah.
kind of gives them a nice guide to the area
Yeah.
and what's going on. So we have all that listed out in here as well. In the package, just a variety of our levels of membership, and then kind of other benefits listed in that. I think most importantly, though, for this committee and the work of the committee is just knowing that my role as small business and community development is to be able to engage not just in Manchester, but in our surrounding communities and help out with initiatives that you may be working on. I saw notes in here about trying to pull together a business meeting, getting more feedback from business owners in the community. So happy to help with that where possible and provide support there, and just as well providing either media contacts if you're trying to get that out. We have good relationships with most media outlets in the region, so helping get more eyeballs on that. For Taco Tour, a lot of that is me visiting every restaurant who signs up and getting them to sign up. So that's hundreds of in-person visits over a year. So very familiar with doing that work now. So happy to help engage there where possible. And that would be most of what I have to cover. But obviously, just interested in staying in touch, hearing a little bit about the work that you all are doing, what you're trying to do, and then being good partners there as well. And just really emphasizing the regional approach to our chamber and being an arm not just to the Manchester community, but to everyone here. So I'm not sure if there are any questions, Joanne.
Are there any?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
are towns members as well?
Yep, so
Oh,
Goffstown is a member.
Yeah.
As such, if any of you want to be added underneath that membership as a representative and have your email there so you can get on our newsletters and stuff like that, would be more than happy to add that in. And then you just kind of stay informed, and if there's an event that you'd like to come to, let me know. We can make that happen as well.
It's all about the tacos, that's what I was worried about.
Can't miss that
Yeah,
notification.
Yeah,
The turkey's already missed it.
Yeah.
Definitely a large-scale event. It's funny having been involved in stuff in Goffstown, community events with Historical Society and whatnot, and seeing the procedure there from a town level, and then the procedure when you go kind of across the river there and cross a couple bridges, and the amount of costs and stuff like that. I think we talk to a lot of business owners who are looking in Manchester, and that's great. And if it's a fit, we encourage them and put them in contact with the right folks. But I think at the same time too, there's a lot of benefits to being in a town like Goffstown, where you're a little bit more tight-knit community, but then just on regulations and stuff like that, there's not as much red tape as there can be with a city and doing business in a city, which there are many reasons for that, but I think as long as that's an advantage for the town, that's something to take advantage of in the future as well.
So Cole, I just have sort of a comment / question. So
Yeah.
first, thank you for coming in. I really appreciate that. I don't know that we've ever really scratched the surface, despite Joanne's best efforts and encouragement, to really engage with you as much as we possibly could. So a question would be, as a lot of new members on the council, and we're working through what we can and cannot do, and there's a lot of different ideas that come through, would you mind, you're welcome anytime, of course, but would you mind being a semi-frequent visitor, sort of presenter, so we can talk to you a little bit more as
Oh,
we go?
Of course, let's go for it.
Awesome. 'Cause I think when you say that you're able to help, that would be really great if we had something, and I know you said where possible, so I completely understand that statement, but when it comes to helping us, just if we have a small project, just having someone that can go out there would be incredibly helpful sometimes. We were talking about the challenges we face with that, so I'd love for you to come back every couple of months or so and just have a conversation with us. We can communicate through email, of course, right, about what we'd like to cover, and that you'd be more than welcome anytime, but it'd be great to make it more of a sort of say once a quarter would be great.
Yeah, of course. I'm more than happy to work with Joanne.
Awesome.
I have
To
a
make that
question.
happen, yeah.
Cole, are you seeing any thing that stands out to you from the smaller businesses in Manchester right now, like something trending that's happening with them? Like, I would assume one of the biggest ones is trying to find employees.
Yeah, so definitely housing. That's our number one issue. That's been the number one issue for quite some time now. I attended the New Hampshire Housing Conference last year, and they kind of laid out that we're probably, as far as single-family homes and whatnot, we're going to be in this situation for 20 to 30 years. So kind of knowing that and having that approach and finding different ways to get folks into housing as businesses here are growing. So there's affordable housing is a huge issue. Labor force is a huge issue, but I think more so from folks who aren't necessarily running that small business or have the small business in the downtown area. Just knowing that just because a business is open doesn't mean that they're succeeding, doesn't mean that they're going to be open for 5, 10, 15 years, maybe not even like 5 months. So continuing to support the small businesses while they're around is a crucial element of being a consumer and being locally minded when you're out there shopping. We run a Shop Small campaign associated with the American Express Shop Small campaign later in the year. We're looking to beef that up this year as well, and that's a great time to kind of focus efforts towards there, but making sure that you're doing that all year round as a consumer is a great thing. Manchester has a lot of its own issues that are unique to it. At the same time, there's so much industry coming in with the biofabrication coming into the mill yard, and the mill yard outside of that project as well is very successful with tech and stuff like that. So there's a lot of positive trends that are going on. At the same time, when there's growth, there's issues that come along with it. But you kind of can't be scared of success at a point. I think that's a great mindset to have, that there's a lot great going on. There are struggles that are happening. I think when you're looking at Goffstown, finding out if a business owner is looking at this area, where you can have an advantage over that as well.
One of the things that I struggle with when people do call, particularly more for industrial sites, manufacturing, things like that, is we don't have any real space to speak of, like good size space for that type of business, and we don't have a lot of area that's even zoned for it. So that very much becomes an issue. Whereas the commercial businesses, they've really picked up, especially along the Mass Road corridor over there by where the new car wash went up in that area. The space was woods, so they said, okay, we'll build the buildings, which cost them a lot of money because during the time period when they were doing it, the prices had skyrocketed. But when people call me for industrial space, there's a business that we currently have in town that has outgrown their space, and I don't have anything to offer them, unfortunately. And it's a really good business.
Yeah, I think that there are just constraints that you run into.
Yeah.
Like that. Manufacturing, though, we are seeing an increase in that just with everything that's happened globally. There's been added focus to trying to make stuff in the U.S. And a lot of folks bringing their operations closer to home.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that there's a lot of space out by the airport and then East Industrial Drive where there's happening. But some of that too is commercial space that used to be office space that's no longer being used. That's in the process
Right.
of being converted into manufacturing, which isn't something that I think folks ever would have conceptualized
No.
5-10 years ago. And now that's a trend that we're starting to see now.
Right, and the office space being converted into housing and
Mm-hmm.
places where you wouldn't expect it to be.
Yeah. Terrific.
Any other questions?
I kind of have a question, but I'm not sure how to raise it. I'm just trying to think about like Pinardville and how it abuts Manchester. And then we have some businesses that are like right on the outskirts of Goffstown that are really Manchester businesses, but might have a Goffstown address, but have a zip code in Manchester. It gets confusing, and I know like we work with, like I have a business in that area too, so it sounds like because I looked at the map, so you work with all these communities. Do you find yourself working with people that are kind of on the outskirts more, or
So Manchester is the base, most of our membership, and then Bedford, since there's been a lot of success there recently, and that would kind of put Goffstown, Hooksett, in Londonderry, kind of those surrounding community, kind of into like another bucket outside of that. When you're talking about Pinardville, I mean, there's so much potential there for stuff to come, and just great car traffic, which I think sometimes you can take for granted, but there are a lot of places that would love to have that many cars driving by them
of course?
every day. But I think that there's always been a little bit of an identity divide.
Yes, yes.
With the city right now, the city is going through a branding and marketing project that you might have seen written about. Our chamber had a couple meetings with the folks running that and just seeing examples of what they've been able to do in communities. And a lot of that is just helping them tell the story, which isn't something you would always think is necessarily economic development based. But once you're able to really, I think that'd be helpful in getting the feedback from business owners there. But go in there, get their feedback, see what they see every day, and then help them tell the story to the community around them and really bring them together. I think that that's something that's not necessarily always thought of as economic development, but very helpful in the long run.
So is there an opportunity to work with the Manchester Commerce for the businesses in Pinardville to
Yeah.
kind of develop their area?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I am very devoted to that part of town. So I would love to get some contact information and find out how I might be able to do more of that. Are we allowed, we have a membership, is that what it is?
Yep,
We
the
do,
town of
yeah.
Goffstown.
So,
Yep.
because I'm on the board, do we have a representative who goes to the different things in the Manchester?
No, the entire board can go,
Okay,
or, individually as a group of a few people.
okay.
And when I worked for Hooksett, we had a large group of their committee would attend on a regular basis. They would go to the Manchester meetings. Most of them were in the daytime, but, there was a large group who was able to
Yeah.
work their hours out, so it worked for them. And it was actually very interesting because at that time, Will Stewart was in charge of economic development, and he used to run, I think it was like monthly programs for the board members, and he would bring in a speaker, from a local business, and it worked out really well because everybody from the other towns got to know each other, and it was very well worth the time. It was only it took about an hour or so.
Okay. So is there a way for me to get the information so I know when these meetings are taking place, so I can try to carve out time in my schedule to
Yeah,
be
that'll
able to
be
attend?
all in the newsletter, and I can work with Joanne to get you added.
Awesome,
into that.
that'd be great.
Cole,
Yeah.
is there availability to attend or listen virtually if you're unable to physically attend the meetings?
Depends on the programming. We did do, since COVID, we've worked to get pretty much everything back to in person, unless it's something that's more educational. Today we had a workshop with Brad Solomon, SC Digital. He does social media and online marketing for folks. And it was all about Google, building out your Google listing, like number of things that most business owners would never know about. And that's something that we found works better virtually. Most of our other programming definitely works better in person, meeting folks face to face. So we've kind of tried to stay in that lane. But when it comes to the educational programming, there's stuff like that that you can hop online for.
Yeah, I think some of those workshops would be good for some of us to attend as we try to
Yeah, we
boost
should
our
have a
social media.
recording of that we'll share out too. Brad's great at what he does.
That's fantastic.
Are these programs recorded where you could go on at any time and watch
Yeah,
them?
most of our stuff, if it's recorded, goes on our YouTube page.
Okay.
And it will be available to watch whenever you want.
Okay.
There.
That's helpful.
Yes. Cool, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Of course,
coming by.
John, great to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.
Yes, thank you. For old business, UNH Cooperative Doodle Poll and Business Visitation Update. Provide us with that sad update.
So Scott contacted me to give me an update, and apparently you're the only one that's helping. So we really need to get more people involved. Can you like highlight what you've done and approximately how long it has taken?
So I spent an afternoon walking around Pinardville and just engaging with business owners, talking to them about the survey and, just trying to introduce the Economic Development Committee. I mean, most people were definitely, would talk to me about it. I can't say that, like, I made a list. I probably spent a couple hours because as you know, I like to talk, so I wanted to engage and ask questions and find out more because I want to be thorough. I want to, make a change in that area, town especially. And so, actually it's kind of interesting because hi Dan. Dan's one of the business owners that I had spoken with, and he actually had asked if he could come to a meeting. He reached out to me. I don't know what he wants to talk about, but I'm sure it has something to do with the survey, which is great because we need the feedback. But I just think it takes more time than people realize, because if they don't know who you are and you're walking into a business and someone's busy and you're trying to engage the right person,
Right.
and that makes it difficult. But I just think it's just a matter of, I actually think what it really comes down to is when we're out and about doing things, we have to engage people. We have to let them know about things that are going on, and we need to encourage them to do the survey. And I think if people can't carve out time, like, I took a half a day off from work to just try to make sure that I could, do some of this because I feel that it needs to get done. We're spending money on a project. We want to get good, valuable feedback, and it's not my money we're spending, it's, the town's money. So I want to make sure that it, we get our money's worth, and I know Scott is dedicated to the project. And I think that people are interested. I just think it's a matter of actually speaking with them individually, and that's a challenge, obviously. So we might have to find a better way to engage people.
I know in the very beginning we talked about having, like, actually inviting the business owners in Pinardville to a place and going over the survey with them, and then having them, do it right there. I mean, the questions now, there's only like, I think 5 or 6 questions compared to what it was before. And I wonder if that would be better.
I think we had talked about it too with in the fall, if we have a meeting over in Pinardville, of really using that as an opportunity to invite the Pinardville businesses, depending on where we have it, if brewery or wherever, and then folks have the opportunity there to be able to take that survey.
What's the deadline for us to complete the survey?
Well, we don't necessarily have a deadline, but I think
Okay.
Scott, after a while, will have to move on to something else.
Speaking of Scott, I really haven't seen anything more with regard to, because I went to train with that little training that he did.
Right, and
I don't know how many of us did that, but really there hadn't been follow-up from him, unless
No,
I missed something along the way.
The follow-up after that was the doodle poll survey. That was, no, I'm sorry, the doodle poll was supposed to be sent
Yeah,
out
yeah.
to the board members to say, when are you available? Then after that, he was going to, sounded from the way he described it, he was trying to get people as a group to go out at once. And that didn't
That-
seem to work at all.
That hasn't happened, right?
No. Like I said, the only one who went out was Sarah. And Melanie had offered, but I don't think hers ever panned out.
And I feel bad because I didn't get feedback. I wrote it all down. Because I even had a business that was very interested in doing the survey, but the woman had a challenge to do anything electronically, and she's the owner of Dance Visions. But for some reason, I didn't write her name down, so I do need to go back. But she wanted someone to come and survey her in person, or by phone,
yeah, yeah.
or something else. And I said that I'm sure that there's a way, to do that. So I mean, I have no problem following up with that, and I can, let Scott know. And a lot of people I think it's just, even though it's small businesses, you're not always getting the business owner.
Right, right. And
Well, people
then,
are skeptical when you
Right.
go and start talking and run into that.
that's why I think if it was a little more like organized with like, okay, really publicize that this is what we're doing, this is where it's happening, have them come in and have like a chat session with them. And then when that's over, try to pull out of them, what are your issues, what do you need help with? And then once that's over, have them do the survey. Maybe it could just be a paper survey so it would go quicker. Because like I said, there's hardly any questions really on there at this point compared to the length of it previously. But we did, like I said, I think in the beginning, in Hooksett, we did the paper at that time. We weren't going out singly, we were going as a team, so 2 people. But we sent letters ahead of time, we scheduled an appointment, and then the 2 people would go to the business, one would write everything down. Just instead of having the owner of the business trying to do it, like, we would just let them talk, and the other person would be the note taker, and then fill in the answers, but they also had a lot of comments to say. But then after we did that, the people who didn't participate, then we chose, it was mainly, we were going after the busier businesses, and we had them come to, I think we had like 3 or 4 kind of like just like chat sessions, and we had maybe 4 to 6 businesses at a time. But even though it was a lesser amount, we got a lot of information out of them, so it was really helpful. And then we gave everything to UNH, and they compiled it and came back with their theory of what was going on. But it was, I think it was more meaningful that way than just trying to knock on someone's
Yeah.
door and
Sounds
say.
like it's more organized.
It was definitely.
I'm assuming it was successful. Right?
Yes.
I mean, you got a lot of feedback?
Yes. And you know what the funny thing was, which I was shocked over? The businesses along Hooksett Road, the biggest thing that they were looking for were additional, town organized festivals and things like that. They were looking to bring newer people, people from outside the town into the town for, however the town wanted to do that, so that they would be introduced to their business. That was the biggest suggestion that they had, which I was like, really? But when you think about it, it makes sense.
Yeah. They're the beneficiary
Right.
of it, right? If
Right.
people are coming into town and, gee, I didn't know that business was there, I didn't know they did that.
Yeah.
In Goffstown.
Yeah.
So Joanne, if I say I go to the brewery and say, can we do our meeting in October? I know that we had talked already, all we need is someone to do minutes and we post it, we're
Right.
good to go.
Mhm.
What would be the process? Because what I see is the same exact challenge that we have now in engaging businesses. Like, how do we get them all to know this is happening and bring them there to fill out this survey?
We have to pinpoint which businesses you would like to target send them an email, and then call them on the phone, like have a rapport with them, not of the questions, but just say, hey, this is what we're striving for. We'd like to get this completed. We need your help. Would you come? And see, the problem is, like, we can't, as a town, we can't pay for their beers.
Of
So
course.
we can't offer, like, come have a beer on us, you know. That's not practical. But we could maybe have some food for them, because, as you know, the brewery doesn't have, you know, food. So maybe we could say, hey, we're going to have such and such, and why don't you come and meet with us?
Okay. So I would, so the suggestion would be I could reach out to the folks at the brewery and maybe suggest October, give us a chance to come back in August and maybe figure out which businesses we want to target. Reach out to them via phone and then say, come on in, you know, have a beer with us.
Right.
And have them fill out the survey and maybe do something similar again, you know, once in a while. I know Scott may not be involved forever, but it's a process that we're learning that we can repeat
Right.
to get feedback. So I think that would be, I could certainly reach out to the owner and suggest October. Anyone feel that's a decent enough timeline?
I think so. Oh, go ahead,
I have a
sorry.
question. Are there any events coming up where there's gonna be a lot of local businesses set up? Because that would also be another great time to talk to, I mean, I know they're gonna be doing their wares and stuff, but if we were practical and knew we had the survey and we, you know, we all have electronics, you know what I mean? You have an iPad, here's a survey, these are the 5 questions. You could literally ask the questions and then have them submit it. You could, you know what I mean? I'm just saying if you're really trying to get feedback, and even, I mean, we're not really getting, if we got 10, that'd be great, you know what I mean? We're looking
Yeah.
for, you know, some volume.
The pumpkin regatta, that would be the businesses around here, but we're really looking for the Pinardville businesses.
Yeah, I understand.
What about that night out that they have at the end of the summer? Usually it's held.
National Night Out?
I've been, but my kids were younger. Does anyone know if the businesses participate in that, or is it?
There are some for sure.
So I mean, that would be another avenue.
One question, Joanne. So, thinking about leveraging, you know, our social media communication as well. After our event, what was the event at the high school? Just the Spring Fest. Thank you. Have we invited some of those businesses that we spoke to like our EDC page? Like
Yes.
specifically through like Facebook, have we invited them, like sent a message to like?
Yeah, I sent a message to like a whole list of them, and I think maybe 2 did that.
Okay. And
We
we did
have-
it through Facebook too,
Yeah.
pushing out
Yeah.
that message? Okay.
Was that the list of email addresses that we collected that
Yeah.
day?
And plus the other ones that we just have of businesses in town.
Okay.
And I looked specifically for the ones that came that day, and it was like barely anything. Because you had asked that question a while ago.
Okay. Yeah, I was just hoping that if we sent it to their business on Facebook or something and we're able to get, you know, like of the Goffstown social media page,
Right.
that'd be a good way to advertise as well.
Well, when you have a Facebook page and people go to your page, because I do Charlie's, right, and they make a comment or they do something, you can invite them to like your page. So when we get going, because I send, like if I'm one of the managers of the social media, so I'll say, oh, I haven't seen this person's name before, I'm gonna ask
Yeah.
them to follow us. And usually, like, it's just a matter of, like, it's a management button on the page itself, and it shows me that I have 15 people that haven't followed us, and I send them a request
And
to
then
follow us.
they do.
Yeah, it's pretty common that people just will engage. So it's, I mean, you kind of have to do it like every day. You know what I mean? It can be tedious, but it's really easy. So I mean, I think that once we get the page up and running, and we have some great articles on economic development, and maybe we can
Right.
start focusing on, like, I think we had said, highlighting some businesses. And then as we're highlighting the businesses and people will be commenting on it, right? And we can ask them who else wants us to highlight their business, you know, and it'll engage people.
Right.
And then hopefully, you know, we can get people to follow us that way. But I mean, we also, you can, when you have the Facebook page, you can do, like I used to do something for the restaurant that was like an event, right? And I would say, sample Saturday. Come to Charlie's and have a sample of gyros. And then I would make these teeny tiny gyros because my husband, you know, can't give away all the food, Sarah. And I haven't done it at the new restaurant because it's just too busy. But, you know, so people would come in and they'd be like, hey, I saw you had Sample Saturday. Do you have any little tiny gyros for me to try?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, yeah, they're right over there.
That's a
And
good
people
idea.
would engage. And then they actually will talk to you, you know what I mean, as a business. Like,
Yeah.
so if we tried to do something where we are inviting people and we created an event, I think we could engage more people. I just think it's a matter of getting the skill sets we need to do this on a regular basis.
Right.
So that as we're engaging business owners, whether it be, you know, here, outside of here, while we're doing the campaign, that we're always have that in the back of our mind that we want to, you know,
Yeah, it
Have-
seems to be consistency. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
Continue to.
Right.
it's, you know,
Because the
building,
more they
you're just
see it,
building.
they'll eventually do
Can I
something.
can I ask a question of Cole while he's here? I'll take advantage of it. What do you find the best way to get feedback from your members? What's the tool that best gets you feedback? Is it, you know, electronic communication, digital communication? Is it gatherings? How do you get feedback from your members?
It depends on what you want your like hit rate to be, Dick.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
want to get everyone's feedback, you're gonna have to go there in person.
Mhm.
If you want to send it out widely, and then you'll get some feedback,
Yeah.
which is great, and you won't have had to put too much work into it. But we do always tell people that when they're like, oh, why doesn't every business just like email me back? We're like, okay, like call them first and then like go in there. Because you really do need to meet them where they are. A lot of business owners, you're inside those walls all the time and then you go
Yeah,
home
yeah.
because you're tired from working.
Sure.
And then you're right back there. So you really need to connect with them while they're there
While they're
and meet them where they're at.
Where they are.
Yeah.
Great,
You have to
thanks.
make
Thank
it
you.
as easy as possible.
Mhm.
And I think too, with the reduction in the number of employees that they all have, they have less and
Yeah.
less time to kind of participate in those kinds of things.
So I like to take all the ideas we have and try to summarize and make sure I'm understanding it correctly, also for the sake of the minutes and an action plan. So I'm hearing that I'll reach out to the brewery, we'll try that as one approach, and then figure out which businesses that we want to reach out to via phone and invite them there, have the surveys ready. I also heard National Night Out. I think your idea about commissioning an iPad and literally walking around and anything like that we can find and try to get some feedback that way, just asking. We'll come up with some unique identifier that we can use for each of the businesses. And then I think pushing out through Facebook, like anybody, inviting them to like us. So those are three things I just heard. Is there anything that I missed? Other than just the basic, like all of us when we're going out, just try to engage. I think that's important too, but anything else that I missed?
No,
Okay.
I think, what I think is another good idea is to start using Instagram and for what we had said we were going to do with it, is to actually, put a picture maybe with the owners or something
Yep.
on there, and then you can just have, two sentence, like, this is such and such business, come stop in, something.
Hashtag lobster rolls,
Yeah.
right? I got you,
Right.
yeah, okay. So I think what you need from us though is content. So if we go out there, we grab a picture, we send it to you,
Mhm.
and you're able to post that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful, so that's another
My-
step.
My Facebook, the way they have it set up is kind of weird. So if I go into Facebook on my phone or from the computer, wherever, I can actually just press a button and it will be transferred to
Yep,
the EDC Facebook.
yep,
So it's not, I don't have to like go back in or anything, I could just flip it.
Yep.
And then I'm in EDC, so
makes it really simple.
Great. So those are 4 things that hopefully over the next month, 2, we can figure that out and just try to engage a little bit more. So go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, so like Penardville has Penardville Community Discussion, which is not just business owners, but it is Penardville. I mean, that's another way to engage people. Anyone can set up a Facebook organization group. Maybe we should have a Penardville business. There used to be a
I think there
Penardville.
still is one,
Okay.
but it's not used very often.
Okay, I'll hunt
But
it.
I'm
I'll
almost
look.
positive there is one.
And then maybe you can go over what like, is it possible to post things about we're planning this?
Yeah.
You know, and invite.
I don't know if
Those
they,
in-person meetings, when they meet, are they meeting regularly?
Well,
This, okay.
I had started,
Okay.
I had started trying to do that, and then I just got crazy busy with work and my job and everything under the sun, and I want to restart it, and you know what I mean. And but what I was trying to do was see who was interested, and not be the person like offer the space to be able to hold a meeting. Scott was very interested in making sure that we could promote Penardville in general, because that's part of his plan. And just, you know, basically that's a way for us also to engage different businesses. I just want to make sure I'm careful that I don't have a forum. You know what I mean? That I don't do all the things that I'm not supposed to do, because I want to be accountable.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at it from the reverse side, you know, because you're a business owner as well as a member of the PDC. So if we had those meetings, whether, not that we're inviting people, but they're going because they're interested in a representative or 2 of us could be
That's
part of the
true.
meeting. And just say, you know, we're here because we're really interested in what you folks are doing and trying to do, and
Okay.
Sarah started it. So
And I-
just get a discussion going, and let them know
Right.
that we're
So
here.
I mean, I was trying to commit to just doing a meeting the last one Sunday a month, because that was the day that the space was available in the afternoon at the restaurant, because we're closed on Sundays. The bakery closed at a certain time. And I mean, there were 8 people that came one time, there were 6 people that came, and they were people from the Lions Club, there were a couple businesses. And I think that if it could have gotten rolling, so to speak, that more people probably would show up. I think it's always been a challenge in Penardville to get people to kind of have Penardville and Goffstown be united anyway. You know what I mean?
It's been going on for.
Right,
for-
right. So, I mean, there's certain challenges that I don't think you're gonna overcome immediately. The meeting was supposed to be for anyone who is interested in promoting Penardville. So it could be someone who has a business in Goffstown that just wants to participate because maybe they wanna, know more businesses or know more people. Or it was kind of trying to develop some type of marketing plan for Penardville. And I could commit to try to, get that rolling again, and then a couple months into it, maybe before October, we could have a couple people from the EDC come to the meeting, and then we could, and I can communicate and promote it and let people know what's gonna happen and see what rolls out that way, if that's helpful. Because I mean, people,
I think whether it's 6 or 8 or 10 people, I mean, you're still getting people exposed to what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, and then get that feedback. It might be in
I
small
will-
numbers, but
I will say, the highest business engagement I got was when I was reaching out to certain businesses and inviting them to come to Charlie's on a Saturday night, but Goffstown businesses, anyone, and the few businesses that actually participated, they still are continuing to reach out to me and say, hey Sarah, that was great. It didn't seem like anything came of it, but a lot of people took our cards and they've been calling us, and we've been actually getting orders. It's like, oh, that's awesome. We had one of the local writers in town came in, and he did a presentation of his book, and he's rolling out another book, and he's like, can I come in July?
Awesome.
And I mean, that's huge, that someone wants to, my husband thinks I'm crazy, but, why do you want to have, because I'm trying to do the 2, because I
Yeah.
have I have the ability to utilize the space to promote other businesses at the same time, which I feel like is a win-win. And then I can also develop these relationships with these businesses so that I'll be able to communicate with them more effectively and hopefully help them grow. But I'll start working on some things and, let you guys know how it's going. Maybe next
Great.
month I can, have more of like a development plan to share with you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sarah.
Sorry, I know that's a lot of chit chat.
No, but it's helpful. Go ahead.
But, I do have a question because Dan did come and you had wanted to say something, correct?
Sure.
Oh, okay, because I want to just make sure we.
That was a good segue. I was going right there to new business.
Oh,
New business,
awesome.
and I was going to, but.
I just want to make sure that you don't feel overlooked. Because I think he is Mr. King Bowling Alley.
Oh,
He's my
fantastic.
neighbor.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I am Dan LaRochelle. I am the third generation owner of King Lanes since 1954, so that's like about 67 years or so. It's been there since 1939. I believe we are the second oldest business in the town of Goffstown, losing out to Mass Road Grain, which I think was 1935, but I'm not positive of that.
And they're both in Penardville, no?
They are both in Penardville, that's right. Everybody else bailed out, we stuck around.
That's right. Round of applause.
You know, I think you're all doing a great job on this board and on every other board, and I have no interest on being on any boards. Just to clarify that right up front, I've been asked before about this one. I'm a big Penardville guy. I did try to answer the first survey, and I found myself being very negative, so I never submitted it. Because it allowed you to make a lot of comments. And I read specifically the planning board minutes. I read a few of these, so I know a lot about what you're talking about tonight, but it just seems like it takes so long to get anything done in town. Starbucks, the color, the shape of the building. It just seems like it just takes so many meetings to get anything done. I've been around a couple of years, so I've been to meetings where signs that were spinning were not allowed to spin, and a board member on that particular board made a comment to the owner and it did not go well. Colors, if I like blue and you don't like blue, I'm paying for it, I should be able to put blue. But anyway, so I did not finish the first survey. I tried to lock the door before Sarah came over, but she managed to get in, and I promised her I would do the second survey. I have to guess that none of you have tried to answer the survey, because you can only answer the survey, I think, on your phone.
Oh, really?
Well, how else would you scan a QR code?
Oh, true.
Okay, I don't believe your survey or anything, information about the survey is on your website page, because I looked. So she assured me that it'd be a quick deal.
Uh-oh.
Type in your email address, type in your business name, and you're on it. Okay, I'm 60 years old and I got fat fingers and I'm trying to do this on a phone that I can't see to begin with. But anyway, I think you may want to rethink that a little bit. Get it on the website so that you can answer it on a normal computer. You still have to enter all that information in, but maybe you'll get a better response. I don't know how many responses you've had. I responded, but it wasn't easy. And the questions weren't that difficult. I am very sensitive to 03102. And that was one of your questions. Penardville, Grashmere Village, all different areas of town, very, very different. My business, if you're going bowling, you don't have a lot of choices. Manchester, Goffstown, there's not a lot of choices there. Sub shop, there are a lot of choices. So it's important to know that you're in Penardville. Because if you say you're in Goffstown, they think you're up here in the village. And they're not going to drive an extra 9 miles, unless it's a really good sub,
Thank you.
Yeah, so the 03102 is very important to me. I can't speak for everybody else or anybody else, but we've been through this before. I don't know why we're revisiting it again. I certainly would say that St. A's College would not be entertaining that idea. In fact, the last time it came up, somehow they were going to be exempt from it, which is not right. How can St. A's be exempt but King Lane's can't? So I have issues with that. And Pinardville is not just part of Goffstown. Pinardville is also Manchester. I live in Pinardville. I live in Manchester. I'm right on the line, but it's been said before, oh, Pinardville is only Goffstown. It's not. The streets around Byron Bridge, those are Manchester, but they were given by Edmund Pinard. I'm an unofficial Pinardville historian, very unofficial. But, so I think you need to work on the survey a little bit, my opinion. Get it online, get it on whatever. I don't think I've liked Facebook. I only do a few things on Facebook, so I don't think I've liked your website, but I will. And
Thank you.
that's it, really. Just that. Was there a reason you went with the 03102 question, or that you want to
Yes.
share, or that you don't want to share, or?
Well, I want to share, but I want to make sure I'm articulate about how I share it, given your strong feelings. But
I'm pretty
believe
thick-skinned,
that-
so.
I believe that there were, so in hearing from other people, there are people on both sides of that equation, of course. And some thought that the Pinardville piece being a part of Goffstown would be helpful in a lot of ways for insurance purposes, and ways to save money from like a liability standpoint and other kinds of insurances, plus being part of Pinardville. And then other people feel the same way you do, that this has been this way for quite some time, and there are some benefits to that. So really the question was to get a real sense, like, thank you for answering it.
Yeah.
You know, where do people sit on this? Like, what should we be doing as an EDC to try to help, move the needle one way or another? So it really was a question out of curiosity, as opposed to a question out of, we've already made up our mind and we just want to ask it.
Yeah.
So if we really want to engage Pinardville, do we just say we're having a meeting about the zip code at my?
If you want to get people's attention, screw up, and then you'll get their attention.
I mean, I'm just saying,
Guaranteed.
I can say, hey,
So
that was a joke, you guys, I know you guys are real passionate
We're
about
ready
it,
to
so
make-
glad you came.
You know, I
Salvage it here.
have to be honest, when I read the survey, after I filled it out, I went over to one of my buddies and said, hey, you should do this survey, because it specifically asks about the zip code. And I believe he feels the same way I do about it. I've been around a long time. I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth, but if you're concerned, this isn't the first time we've changed addresses. Okay, I've been in my spot for 80 whatever years, 80, but a long time, 89 years I think, or I don't want to do the math, 84. I used to be 557 Mass Road. Now I'm 751 Mass Road. So now you want to change my address again. And for a business, you're going to print new menus. You got, for me, it's not a, there'll be some cost involved. I still have matchbooks with 557 Mass Road. But then again, who uses matchbooks anymore? But if you're at NATO's, the numbers go down in both directions. So I understand it was a 911 deal, but I don't think there was some thought, a lot of thought given to that situation. Why did we have to go down in both directions? Why don't we just keep it the way it was and, at least keep the sequence the same, maybe fill in the blanks, this should be 558, this should be 559. I don't understand. I assume they must have started, what's the address, 16 Main Street? And don't even get me started on Mass Road and Mass Street and Main Street, all right? I have no idea where Mass Street is. It's over by Cumberland Farms. I just saw that. I don't know where Mass Street starts and stops, but very sensitive about the 03102. But certainly you may want to mention that. That is one of the questions.
We certainly
Okay.
will. No, that's
I know.
really helpful. That's 100% we would bring that up.
Now,
Yeah.
I know that there's some streets if I call 911, I know where I am. Now, you come to my place, you don't know where you are. Because we're right on the line, so you don't know that if this is Goffstown, this is Manchester.
Yeah, I can see.
And I could see where that could be a problem. And 911 has always been good to King Lanes, fast service. Luckily, we don't have to call them that often. But if you have a street that's really concerned about their street, why not think about renaming that street? You know, instead of, I don't know how many 03102s we have in Bernardville, residents and business, I don't know what that number is, but if you have 100 versus 10 people on a street, well, geez, maybe you should rename that street. But then again, there's no guarantee that Manchester won't put that street in somewhere again. So, Rosemont Street is in both towns, and I believe there's a Rosemont somewhere else in Manchester. I've heard issues of people, oh, my delivery got sent somewhere else, or,
I even had an issue delivering oxygen to a patient's house in Penardville before I knew
Yeah.
Penardville. It was an address on Mass Road, and I just happened to be out doing deliveries for the company that I worked for in Bedford because I was on call, and I was like, I'm gonna lose my mind. I cannot find this address. And I felt bad because the person's concentrator broke, they had no oxygen, you know? And I'm like, this is great.
Yeah,
I started walking around, parked my truck and started knocking on doors. So, I mean, I know there is some legitimacy
no,
to it.
no.
In an emergent, well, you're not always, you don't know.
What's it do to a GPS? Have you tested that?
as far as I know, I've never had anybody say they haven't been able to get to my place because of it, but it's been 03102
Forever.
forever.
Yeah, so I do want to be super clear. So when we ask it from this purview, I'm a big picture person in general, but from where we sit, is it advantageous or disadvantageous to have that zip code? And that's what we wanted to find out just from an economic development perspective. When it comes to 911 or people's car insurance because of their residential address, that's outside of what we're looking for. We're just looking for from a strict business standpoint.
Yeah, I don't happen to agree about the insurance part, because I live in Manchester.
Sure.
But, I mean, the Welcome to Goffstown sign is 75 feet from my house.
Yeah.
So I told my agent knows where I live, and he put it as Goffstown.
Got it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the liability is not much difference in that 75 feet. So I don't agree with that. I think your agent could work with you on that part of it, but
Sure.
maybe they can't.
On a complete
Depends
side.
on the
oh, go
agent, I
ahead.
think.
Pardon me?
Depends on the agent.
Yeah.
Sure. To let you know, your establishment, I have to revisit there to redeem myself. I was utterly humiliated last time, so I will be back. I will probably see you at some point.
Excellent. I'd like to hear that. I'd like to see that.
Can the Economic Development Committee do something like a scavenger hunt in the businesses in Penardville to engage them?
Yeah, sure, if the
Because
businesses agree.
we have things like, you know, like I always tease, I love the throne at King's Bowling Alley, because who knows, there's a throne there, right? Hey, you know.
I've actually been involved, as much as I'm a Penardville guy, I've been on Crispin House Board, I've been involved with the library on many things. I've been involved with Main Street when Robbie Grady was there. I did a scavenger hunt with them, and we did a bus tour through the Penardville end, and
I love it.
those were fun things. I'm here tonight to pick up my Goffstown flag, though, because I don't have one down in Penardville. I don't know who's in charge of those, but you know, I know Main Street is a village thing, and I know that Penardville could have their own Main Street. I've been told they could if they wanted to, but I don't want to be on that board. For many years, myself and local businesses, we ran a block party. For 11 years, we did a block party. It started with the Optimist Club, and they stopped doing it, and I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much time. For 11 years, we ran a block party. We had a band. We gave away, everything was free. We gave away food, and it was a 5 to 9 type of deal. It was a great activity, but I have control issues, so I did it all myself and with my friends. I could not have done it without friends, but love to see something like that come back to the area, like the Pumpkin Fest here, or
Yeah, there's really nothing that goes on in Penardville too. That's
No.
all I'm thinking. It's like, we have Surratt Field, you
Oh,
know,
we
there's
have
places.
Roy Park. I mean, Roy Park,
Park's nice.
the playground at Roy Park has really improved since I was a kid. I mean, when I was a kid, we had the metal slide, and we had like the big, well, we had some jungle gym or something, but we did not have much. It looks great up there. I think Rich, right, has done a wonderful job up there.
When you, if I could ask, when you had the block parties, where did you host them? Was
At my
it
place.
the
It was at my
business?
place, yeah.
Okay.
We pitched a tent in the parking lot, and Shiloh let us use their parking lot, or St. Edmunds, they let us use their parking lot for everybody that attended. We would give away like 1,000 hot dogs that night. Now, granted, some guys ate more than one, many more than one. And it was all, I probably had a dozen businesses that we each put in $500. That's what paid for the whole event. You know, your LaPointe Insurance, your Aubins, Lightning Lube, Shaw's at the time, and it was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Did the feedback, the participants or those that gave you money say, yeah, this was beneficial, this was good, we got some spin-off, and did you, I mean, even informally, did you ask?
You know, Aubin Hardware was always very, very active. They had a booth where they gave away stuff the whole night.
Right.
A lot of people, National Hearing Aid, he cooked my hot dogs, my parents, myself. Most businesses just contributed financially. There weren't a lot there. We had the fire department demo a car in the parking lot. And of course, the next day, oh my God, what happened over there? You know, and they took the jaws of life. It was a great thing. In fact, you should think about that on Main Street. It was a great thing so that the fire department could show off their tools. We had the Bloodmobile come down. We did a blood drive. We had a lot of fun with it. The Army National Guard brought down a rock climbing wall, and everything was free. So, you know. Anyway, I've taken enough of your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming and sharing, appreciate it.
This is the kind of stuff we like to give
Exactly
back,
what
and
we've
this
been
is the
hoping to
feedback
get.
we're looking for.
You know,
as well.
Unfortunately, I work nights and weekends, so I have not attended Sarah's things at her place, and I probably would not attend in October, unless it was a Wednesday night, but I do read your emails. And I've been on the websites, and I read your minutes, so don't talk bad about me. And I would like a copy of that book, because I like that book.
Are we allowed to host
I usually go to the
meetings
airport.
at
and
other
get my copy.
businesses?
I think that's what our plan is at the brewery, which will be a Wednesday night, by the way, in October. But yeah.
Shown my
I believe
hand.
We are.
Maybe we should go bowling.
Maybe we should.
No, I think that'd be great. We could just rotate through
Yeah,
some of these businesses.
I mean,
More
if there's any
entertaining
council that could
venues
do it,
than-
yeah, it would be us,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, 'cause we.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Nice
We'll
meeting
take
you
you to
all.
the road show.
Appreciate you taking
Thank you
the
so
time.
much.
I'll set you up when you're ready to come bowling.
All right.
Awesome. Go for a sandwich at Charlie's and come bowling
Do
after.
you have bumpers for me?
I can set you up with bumpers, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night, thanks.
So the last piece of business for us officially is the reappointment of Chris Barrett as an alternate member. We do have the application, even though he's not here, so that's enough to know that he's interested. So I'd love to get a motion to do that. Motion by
motion.
Sarah,
Second.
second by John. So motion and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. And that is it for our final agenda for the night. Anything else or motion to adjourn? ahead.
Just one thought, only because I met last night, the ad hoc bridge committee.
Yes.
Because there's still a lot of discussion about the dam, and I don't know if everybody, I know the website, the town website, has done a pretty good job as far as being explicit about the dam. But are there any updates that you
Yeah, I
have?
I can give you a very brief one. So Joanne and I met with Main Street, and I had asked if it was possible to get a number, real numbers from the businesses that can show us something like the Pumpkin Fest or something that we do downtown, and what percentage of your annual revenue comes from an event like that.
Mhm.
And I felt the challenge was tying that specifically to the river as a draw, but it seems to me that that is pretty obvious to everybody else, so that's good news. We didn't quite get that yet, but according to Joanne, we may still have time to get that done, and I offered to draft a letter that we can add to what the select board sent. So that's where we stand at this moment.
Yeah, because the lady that comes for the Main Street, what is her, is it
Ti-
Paul?
Tina?
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 She's
That's
been-
who we met with.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she said she wasn't able to get you the specifics as far as the impact numbers. But I did, David Pierce is on that board, obviously, and he's talking about the numbers of people that utilize the rail trail itself. And that's about an average of, he said about 150 a day. He says, now remember, that's, you're looking every day. Weekends are certainly more.
Right.
The busy times in the morning, people actually can identify that people are commuting because it's, 7 to 9 in the morning to 3 to 5 in the afternoon. But that's a number too that is possibly to be used as well to make a case, because it does impact, obviously it impacts what we're doing too, and we're trying to get people to, have that through traffic into town is what we're hoping to do. So I just didn't know where it went, because I knew that we were talking about getting together with Main Street. But there's still obviously a lot of questions about what's going on with the dam, how it's going to affect things. And of course, and the end result will be how it would affect any kind of a footbridge, pedestrian bridge that we put across whatever's left there. So, because it sounds like the feds are, the state has turned back their certificate, right?
Well, there's a process to follow, so they did notify the select board and the town that they were sending a letter to FERC surrendering their license.
Right.
But then if you go on the DES website, it talks about the steps to surrender a license. Or I think it might even be on the FERC's website. And it's pretty drawn out, lengthy process.
They're talking like if they take down the dam, probably like 2026.
Really? So there's many steps to decommission.
They have to do a study, an environmental study. They have to figure out how they would dismantle the dam. They have to come up with the money, figuring out how much the cost would be, and then finding the money. And then there's that house that sits
Right.
on
They
the
gotta take
very
a dam
edge.
down without knocking that house down at the same time. Right?
Whoa.
That's one of the fears, that if the
Challenge.
dam just let go, the house would go with it. So
Yeah.
that's why it's a
Yeah.
danger.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the main issue right now. That dam is deteriorating, right? It has to be upgraded or taken.
Right, and between $5 and $10 million to upgrade it.
Yeah.
So, what are the action items that could come out of that process for the study of how to take it down? Is there, what if you're at an impasse? Where do you see, is
So they do an as well as what I just mentioned, they do an environmental study to then figure out which way the course of the water will go, because they have to do all these, really in-depth figures of how that will work once the dam is no longer there.
But there's no part in that if depending on the assessment, that they would have to go back and, spend the money to repair the dam,
No.
right? Okay.
The state doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, and
It's not generating any power, there's no
So it doesn't matter
to it.
what happens
Right.
in these studies.
No,
Yeah,
they,
the test-
because
I mean,
it would
how
be
to
a
be- how to
free-flowing river, but because of the width, there's pretty good possibility that it would become much narrower, and then it would just be kind of like muck.
Right.
And then there's another question of, and supposedly some people know this, but they haven't come forward with information, is who owns the bottom of the river, and who would own the property afterwards. And so there's lots of things for them to need to figure out before they just say, oh, I'm finished with this. The
They did offer it to the town for $1, but the town doesn't want to take on that responsibility.
Because the town will end up paying all of that,
Right.
Yeah,
one way or the other, improving.
Well,
or
plus,
tearing.
plus yearly maintenance,
Right.
after you spend $5 or $6 million.
It doesn't generate enough to pay back, there's no payback.
Just to keep the water.
and then there's the other issue, which it's not really the town's issue because it's in Manchester, but the Kelly Falls Dam. They, as of March, they will no longer have an operator. So the DES either they need to find an operator, or they're seriously mentioning that they'll remove that one as well, which again would have a huge impact. Especially on, my fear is, my fear is the environmental issues. That would be my first concern. My second concern would be the value of the properties.
Right.
And then, okay, so the homeowners themselves lose value, but then obviously, or I shouldn't say obviously, more than likely, they would be applying for abatements, which then where is that loss of revenue going to come from? It has to be dispersed over the whole of the taxpayers. It's really a mess.
Sounds, yeah, very complicated, very.
Yeah.
Do-
And,
Oh, sorry.
oh, I'm sorry, that there are 260 dams, I believe, on this list. And, like, I can't say this for certain, but I'm almost certain that this is the first one that they've sent this letter to FERC saying they're surrendering. I don't remember that they,
They did one in Exeter.
that was I shouldn't say a
I don't know
long
how
time
long
ago,
ago
but
that
that was
was,
several
but-
years ago.
Yeah.
But recently they haven't.
And they're talking about, you could you could do creative things with the land that's gonna be generated from having no water, like parks or
It's not.
whatever.
But again,
I don't know.
it depends on who
That's part
owns
of-
the land.
Right, that's the other.
Yeah, that's still, then you'd have to do all those
Yeah.
title searches, or is there I don't know if there's a rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
I
title
know that-
searches,
I
and
know
does
my-
it
the
revert
deed on
back
my
to the
property
prior owner, or does the
has a
town
certain
own it,
amount
or
of-
what,
Of water frontage, and it goes out a certain number of feet.
Right.
So we always joke around when someone comes in within 20 feet of our house on the water, because they like to go like right by and look, we could wave at them, they look in the fishbowl, and I say, oh, they're on our property right now. So there is something,
Yes.
like at least on the street, the
Right.
area I live on, there's so many feet, and I do think it's like 20 feet.
Yeah.
I can probably, well, I'm sure we
Right,
can
right.
research that. Would it be useful to try to do some research on what happened in Exeter, the process?
Well, I've been following Exeter, and currently, so they did phase 1.
Well, I mean,
which was that-
prior to it, like, were people against it? Did they try to do anything?
I think I did read some information on that, but I glazed over it because I was more concerned with what was happening, like, going forward. But I can double check that.
Well, only because if it really hasn't happened before, we don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah,
So we want to look and see, like, what people already tried to do, because obviously no one wants to have the dams decommissioned if possible, because it's going to have a negative effect on the town, obviously, and property
Yeah.
value and taxes. It's going to be a mess, like you said.
Collis was involved in the Exeter one, and he thought it turned out to be a good project. The one in Franklin is another story.
That's right.
The one in Franklin, they were able, the developer, private developer came in about this, trying to put in a what would you call it,
that's where
white
the
water
Whitewater Park.
park. He was able to develop the first phase with private monies. But now they're looking at phases 2 and 3, which I think are smaller than phase 1. And now he wants the town to chip in. And there's like a feud going on between the townspeople as to whether or not they should be paying anything. Now, Franklin is a very poor community. So they feel like, this is nothing we should be paying for. Where I think in Exeter they made some sort of a park out of it. It didn't have the whitewater rafting or anything.
Did they have the same issues, though? Like, like where I am, when they pull the water out, when the dam goes down and the water goes back, it smells. It is not pleasant. Okay?
Yeah.
It's kind of gross. I mean, I'm just telling it how it is. And so we're always like, oh, thank God they put the water back up. So we are like, oh God, when the water goes down, it's not going to smell good. It's going to smell like a swamp, swampy, icky water. And I don't know if that's because that's more man-made, right, that area. And I don't know do we know what it looked like, the land before the dams?
No one has said, no, I don't think that question was even asked.
Because I'm curious to see where the water naturally goes, because the dam would change the directions of the water, so that's
Right.
gonna have a whole nother effect.
Right,
I remember seeing a picture in Penardville, there was water, by the ice house, more water by the ice house, so where does that water feed from? So all of a sudden, are we gonna have water in a different place?
yeah.
So there's a lot of,
People are very concerned
Yeah.
about that. Even with this dam right here, it's like, where's this water gonna end up, 'Cause people who live on the river.
I see 1, 2, 3, 4 properties already up for sale.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Cove Street, Moose Club Park, Lynchville Park, and there was one other one that went up yesterday. So people are bailing. Well, probably because they're trying to not lose property value, which I
Right.
get.
So the ultimate result of this clearly affects the committee that you're on for us.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind
Do
of.
we need
That's
like
way
a-
down, that's way down the
Right.
river, so to speak. I
Right, so,
think.
do we need a little wooden like crossover or an actual, so that's, it'll certainly affect.
Two-
Somebody make
two
a joke like a
matchsticks.
2x4?
It's gonna be a rope.
Yeah, just a rope,
The
tire
next
rope.
meeting, we typically don't meet in July because it's
Okay.
difficult to get, this one especially is July 5th, so I cannot imagine most people, myself included, would be here for that. So we'd look at August, so in between this time and that time, I should have word on the brewery at least, and we can take a look at a number of other topics that we brought up and see where we go with that. So August 5th will be the next one. So with that, is there a motion?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Okay,
I
motion.
forgot what I was
Second.
motioning about.
Okay, all in favor? All
Aye.
right, motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank